What is going on, guys? Welcome to this edition of the Second Chance Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chance Dyson. This week going to be a little bit different. We have got our Week 7 recap. I've got my guy, my friend, Jordan Foote, Sports Illustrated writer for the Kansas City Chiefs. Jordan, thanks for being here, and thanks for being and talking about our recap.
Chance, man, thanks for having me, buddy. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, man, for sure. So listen, the way I normally do this, as we just explained, I'll go over the college stuff, and then we'll jump ship and go over to the NFL. So let's just get right. Our first matchup that we had last week for college that I covered was Illinois-Wisconsin. Clearly, I didn't have your predictions last week, so I didn't know how you really felt about these. We don't have to go too deep into them. But I personally picked Wisconsin. Wisconsin comes out on top of Illinois 45-7. Wisconsin sitting at 14. And again, as you guys know, I normally over the rankings until we go into our predictions. So as we know right now, they sit at 14. Then Syracuse, clearly I'm sure as Jordan knows too, getting Clemson just demolishing Syracuse 47-21. Clemson clearly the number one contender right now for the national championship, sitting at the number one ranking. Then we have Ohio State just, again, demolishing Nebraska. They're at number 5, as we know right now. 52-17, they win. Then the Battle of North Carolina, as I said, North Carolina, the Tar Heels come out on top, 48-21. Then K-State, what are they called? You live in Kansas. It's the
Wildcats.
The Wildcats, exactly. Sorry, I kind of blundered there a little, but regardless. So the Wildcats come out on top of the Jayhawks, 55-14. Then Coastal Carolina defeats Georgia Southern, 28-14. Marshall beats FAU, 20-9. Alabama, as we all figured, defeats Tennessee. I didn't think personally, Jordan. I don't know how much you kept up with Tennessee prior to the Tennessee-Alabama game, but we all know that Tennessee kind of has been on a downhill slope. So after their poor performance last week, I didn't expect them to do well against Alabama. And it kind of still showed with, again, Alabama 48-17, clearly just wiping them off the map. We probably won't see them ranked for the rest of the season. I think they've already had, I think after this week, they have 3 losses now. I think they sit at 2-3.
Yeah.
And then something I made a point of that I was ready to see him come off of a bye week. We had Iowa State versus Oklahoma State. My guy, Chuba Hubbard. I don't know. Do you know anything about Chuba Hubbard? Have you kept up with him? Have you seen him before?
I know he's got 25 carries for $139 and a touchdown last week against Iowa State, and that seems good enough for me.
Right. And so this kid, mind you, is a junior this year, sophomore last year, was coming off the bench. Somebody that I kind of picked out of the crowd, and I was like, okay, he has a lot of potential. He had a lot of on and off field leadership. And that was what I really liked about him. And ended up, he came out as a junior. And I said, I think it's been, oh my God, I did Max's podcast. And I said, if you keep an eye on him, he will be a top 15 pick. He's projected to go number 9 as it sits right now. Even through all of the talent we have this year.
Yeah.
So I really liked him. He was the reason Oklahoma State won this game. They're at number 6 right now. I don't know if they moved up this week. Haven't looked at it yet. But they beat Iowa State 24-21. Chuba Hubbard, the leading rusher of the entire game, led them to victory. So then we have the blunder call of the year, Penn State versus Indiana. I didn't get to watch the whole game. I don't think you did either.
No.
But we all know what happened. I mean, the refs blew a call at the goal line, and I did a shoot today with a guy who works at the Wide World of Sports. He said he thinks it's a 2-point conversion. He said he thinks the ball crossed the plane no matter. He said it was 2 blades of grass. Doesn't matter. He crossed. What's your opinion on the call? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I think that stuff like that, when it happens, it's always unfortunate. But, I mean, don't put yourself in that position in the first place, and then you don't have to worry about the call. That's my thing with any call in sports. Is it unfortunate? Yes. But it also, A, happens to the other team at some point. B, you don't have to put yourself in that spot. If you make a couple plays better earlier in the game, you already had the lead and you don't have to do that. So, yes, it sucks. And I think it was really, really close, almost impossible to tell. But you have hundreds, well, not hundreds, you have 70 other plays in that game where you can just step up and make something happen.
Right, exactly. And I will say he made a point to me that the effort to get across the goal line is just like give it to him. Just give it to him. It is what it is. But at the same time, we know that wasn't Penn State's downfall. They had Coach Franklin just did not draw up a good game plan this week. And I think that everybody in the Big Ten right now is flying blind. They don't know what to expect, especially coming in so late in the season, even against a team like Indiana. So it was more, and the other thing too I noticed, Sean Clifford wasn't trusting his wide receivers. It just seemed like he wasn't quite comfortable. But regardless, Indiana comes out on top. I'll be honest with you guys. I personally think he was short by, a mile.
Those two.
But,
yeah.
But regardless, though, it is what it is. Indiana wins the game in overtime. And then after that, we've got Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. Wake Forest comes out on top. Then I'm not going to lie to you guys. I put Notre Dame on upset alert this week, and I was very, very wrong.
Boy.
They obliterate Pitt 45-3. And I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of my family are from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the whole area. And it wasn't even just because I was rolling with the hometown crowd. I genuinely trusted Pitt this week. I'm going, okay, they've played great football. So what is stopping them from beating this Notre Dame team? But just ended up, I think turnovers really was what decided Pitt's fate. Their quarterback had 3 interceptions, literally threw a yard over 100, 101 yards, 10 of 27, as where the quarterback for Notre Dame, 3 touchdowns, 312 yards, 16 of 30.
Yeah.
Just amazing game from him. So Notre Dame comes out on top. Then after that, we have Michigan versus Minnesota, which was I personally picked Michigan, but was really close Michigan comes out on top 49-24, but was a really close decision for me because Michigan at that point was 18 and Minnesota was 21. Another one of those James Franklin situations where you don't know what to expect. You're kind of just like, okay, we're coming in. We don't know what Minnesota looks like when they had a halfway decent team last year. And Michigan, on the other hand, clearly a contender all the way around. But they come out on top of this one. Then after that, Virginia versus Miami. Miami wins a close one. And see, this is my point to why Miami should not be number 11. You're going to tell me right now that you've got a team like Miami who has lost to the only contender they've played, and they're going to win by 5 against a team like Virginia, and you're not going to take them out of the top 25? Let's be honest here. There are a lot of teams right now. We haven't looked at the rankings yet for this week, so we don't know. I don't know where they put them. But I'll tell you what, if they don't put Penn State higher than Miami, they've got some serious problems. Because even with Penn State losing, they still only lost by a singular point. Miami beat at 11 an unranked team by 5.
Yeah.
So granted, I said too that regardless of who lost this week that was in the Big Ten, they would fall out of the top 25. I don't know how close Penn State is to falling out, but I'm pretty sure it's damn close. So we'll move on from that one. Then this was one that I blundered this week. I was telling you about it beforehand because I was like, oh my God, how am I going to recover from this? SMU gets trounced by Cincinnati 42-13. And Cincinnati actually was the team that I said was going to be the next Miami, where they come and they win, and then they play somebody that matters and they get chopped. And so I'm looking at a team like SMU who was 5-0 compared to Cincinnati's 3-0. And I'm going, okay, there's no way. There's no way SMU doesn't come out on top of this. And SMU walks in even undefeated and just gets smacked. They were 16, Cincinnati was 9. So, terrible turn of events for me. But even worse for SMU. So, regardless, Cincinnati comes out on top 42-13. Then we have our last game, BYU and Texas State, BYU number 12. They come out on top 52-14. So then we're going to go ahead. Jordan's got his stuff up too in front of him. We're going to kick over to week 9. Let's go ahead and go through our predictions. We may as well. We're here. So first game of the week, we have our Friday night game, which is Marshall versus Florida International. Marshall 5-0, ranked number 19. And actually, I always do this. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and read the rankings. I always just go through the top 10 because for me, I feel like people don't want to listen to the entire top 25.
Sure.
So I always go through the 10, and then I just pick and choose out of 25 who's interesting and where they're placed.
Yeah.
So we already know the top 4. Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State comes into play, Notre Dame, UGA, Oklahoma State stays at 6. Cincinnati comes up 2 spots to 7. Texas A&M comes in at number 8.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin comes up 5 spots and goes to number 9, and UF sits at 10. After that, though, the notables that I have, Miami drops 1 spot, which is well earned. They go to 12. Then Michigan 13, Oregon 14, UNC 15, which they went from 14 to 15 just because they lost last week. Or I say last week, the week before last.
Yeah.
And then Kansas State comes up 4. Illinois stays neutral. Not Illinois, Indiana. Penn State, there they are. They dropped 10 spots from 8 to 18. So this is where I was saying we were going to see a drastic decline out of the top 10 from the Big Ten because if they lose their first game coming in, especially after seeing everything already, if they lose, gone. Without a doubt. So after that, Oklahoma finally pops back into the rankings. You know I'm a Spencer Rattler guy. They come back in at 24. So those are my only notables. So let's switch back over. So like I said, Marshall 5-0 versus Florida International, FIU Panthers. I think Jordan, this one's kind of simple. Marshall's 5-0. Florida International 0-3. They play Friday night. I've got Marshall. Who you got?
Yeah, no, this one's self-explanatory. I think that Wells and Marshall are going to take care of Florida International pretty handily.
Okay. And so then we actually have, this one's kind of interesting. This is our next one. We've got Clemson versus Boston College. Now, normal people would say, okay, Boston College, they're Boston College. You've got number 1 Clemson.
Yeah.
But Boston College is 4-2. Mm-hmm. They could be feeling good coming in this week. So I'm not going to say anything, upset alert. I'm not going to put anybody on yet. But I'm going to pick Clemson because Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, hello. And I just don't think Boston College has the capabilities to beat them this week. I mean, let's be honest though. We look at Boston College's quarterback. He's not too far off of Trevor Lawrence. He's 140 of 224 on the season, 1,671 yards, 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Trevor Lawrence, obviously a lot more accurate. Granted, my point to Clemson always though is that they don't play anybody.
Yeah.
They don't. I mean, clearly. And so Trevor Lawrence though, even through playing what I call nobody, is 135 and 191, 1,833 yards, 17 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So this kid's 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions less and a little bit better accuracy shy of being Trevor Lawrence's stats. And obviously about, 200 yards, if that.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Boston College takes it this week, but I will say I think it's going to be an interesting game. So I'm going to take Clemson. Who do you think?
Yeah, no, the line's Clemson by 31. I think that Boston College is going to cover that. I think it'll be closer. 31 is a 4-score game, and that's with 2-point conversions. So I think that even if it's 28, Boston College should cover, and they're in 2 different classes in terms of how good they are, but I think that it'll be a little bit more interesting than people think.
Right. Okay. And then we have battle in the SEC on the SEC Network Saturday, Georgia versus Kentucky. Kentucky 2-3, Georgia 3-1. Stetson Bennett popping in to the Heisman contender. And this was a kid I've been saying since the beginning of the season to keep an eye on because he is somebody that you're looking who is taking over for Jake Fromm.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, who is he? What can he do? So he's been 71 of 24 on the season, 958 yards, 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Georgia, obviously 3-1. So I'm going with my Heisman contender. I'm going to take Georgia over Kentucky. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with Georgia as well. I'm looking ahead to the next matchup because I'm excited to talk about that. I think Georgia's going to beat Kentucky fairly handily in that one.
Okay, cool. And so then you said you're looking forward to Memphis and Cincinnati. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Or are you okay. All right, so I'm going to let you start this one. What do you know about Memphis and Cincinnati?
I know that White's having one hell of a season. He's got 17 touchdowns and 4 picks. I think that this one, if I had to pick an upset of the week, I'd go Memphis over number 7 Cincinnati, and that would shake up not only the top 10, but maybe even the top 25 a little bit.
Okay. See, now I like that. See, now that is something that I was looking at too. And you're absolutely right. I mean, Ritter and White both having phenomenal seasons. But I mean, yeah, I gotta be with you there. I think Memphis is the upset to pick. But I mean, I gotta say, after what Cincinnati did to me last week,
yeah,
they spited me a little for picking against them, as if they listen to my podcast. But but I think they spited me a little, so I'm not gonna pick against them again this week. I think that you're absolutely right. I think that Memphis would be the upset to pick.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I'm going to take
That's
them.
fair.
So you got Memphis, I got Cincinnati.
Yep.
Okay. Then the Battle of Michigan. It's been the Battle of the States for the past 2 weeks, man. I swear to God, we had the Battle of North Carolina. We had the Battle of Kansas, obviously where you're at. And then now we've got the Battle of Michigan this week. Michigan State versus Michigan. Always a thriller. I mean, it is. So we've only seen one game from Michigan State. They lost. And so right now they've got Michigan at 93.4% compared to 6.6 for the win-loss. So, I mean, I clearly am going to take Michigan here.
Yeah.
But do you have anything about Michigan State, any kind of hope for them? Did you see anything that maybe I don't? I mean, they've got –
I don't.
Looks like they've got a Lombardi as their quarterback. What's his name? Rocky Lombardi, a junior from Clive, Iowa.
He looks a little bit like Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter series. Not to roast him or anything.
I mean, I'll be 100% honest with you. I've never watched Harry Potter a day in my life, but I know that he looks like that Draco dude because I've seen the Draco dude. The only Dracos that I know about are the ones that 21 Savage raps about. That's as far as I go.
That's for your music podcast, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Michigan. I'm pretty sure you're probably of the same opinion, right?
Oh, yeah, not even close. It's going to be a blowout.
Okay. So then we've got, you said at the beginning when I said they won, so we've got Kansas State versus West Virginia. West Virginia's 3-2, Kansas State at 4-1. Kansas State actually not a terrible team this year. Upset Oklahoma, obviously, in one of the first couple games of the season. And this week, though, they've got Kansas State 52% compared to West Virginia's 47.9%.
Yep.
So that's according to ESPN's Power Football Index, the PFI or the FPI. I mean, totally said that backwards. But so their quarterback on the season, 40 of 64, 626 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions for Kansas State. But then we look on the West Virginia side, we've got 127 for 198, 1,389 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So I'm going to go this week, and I'm going to take West Virginia over Kansas State. I think I'm going to take West Virginia. That's a little bold, I'm going to say, but I'm going to take West Virginia over Kansas State. For some reason, I feel like Kansas State's running out of fuel. Because you're going to tell me your quarterback only has 4 touchdowns on the season. Your running back, their starting running back, Vaughn, 61 carries, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, has the same amount of touchdowns rushing as his quarterback has passing. I don't think that West Virginia team is going to stand for that. So I'm going to take West Virginia this week. I'm going to take them. They're unranked right now. So this clearly, Kansas State being 16 this week, this could potentially shake up a few things from, 15 and on. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens in that one. Who do you think? Are you going to take Kansas State or West Virginia?
I'm going to go Kansas State after I watched the beatdown they put on my Jayhawks last week. I think that it will be a pretty close game and that if West Virginia wins, maybe they jump into the top 25 race. But I think Kansas State has enough firepower to where they can get away with a win in this one.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. I don't know. This is kind of when I look at it, I just feel like West Virginia comes out on top for some reason. It's just one of those things that you kind of feel. We'll talk about one of those things kind of about Le'Veon Bell later. But so I think I've got the Le'Veon Bell feeling in my stomach about West Virginia beating Kansas State. So then we're going to go Coastal Carolina sitting at 20. They're playing unranked Georgia State. Coastal Carolina 5-0 They beat the team that I've really enjoyed what they've done with their football program. The University of Louisiana Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns. I know the head men's basketball, not the head men's basketball coach, one of the assistant men's basketball coaches down there. I worked under him when he was a coach here at Daytona State. And regardless of basketball, I became a fan of them and started following them just because he was there for basketball and football, because clearly we're football guys. We love this stuff. So it doesn't matter. If we know somebody there, we're going to follow them. So I really like what they did with their football program. And this Coastal Carolina team came out and beat them. Coastal Carolina 5-0. So personally, against the Georgia State team that's 2-2, I'm taking Coastal Carolina because, 5-0 to 2-2. That's kind of like one of those matchups we saw earlier with Marshall and Florida International. So I'm going to take them. I'm going to take Coastal Carolina. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go Coastal too. That's another team that I've had the displeasure of watching beat my Jayhawks this year because KU has yet to get a win, obviously, and I was pretty impressed by that team, so I think they'll win it.
Okay, cool. So then after that, we've got Iowa State versus your Jayhawks, 0-5 to 3-2. Iowa State, after losing to Oklahoma State in a close one this week. That's tough. See, obviously, you want to pick against Kansas.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but I got to go with Iowa State. I'm sorry, buddy. I got to take Iowa State.
I do too.
You're going to take Iowa State too?
Yeah.
I hate being a fan of a losing team. I obviously will watch it and I will be a fan till my death. But after seeing Pittsburgh, the Steelers clearly 6-0 this season.
Yeah.
Not to toot that or anything, but the only team left undefeated. After having them win 6 games, and I'll be honest with you, it's not even about winning or losing to me. I don't want everybody to think I'm a fair weather fan. But since doing broadcast stuff, like for basketball, for football, for everything, having to call unbiased, I have lost my fandom in college football teams.
Yeah.
It is like now, don't get me wrong, I'm Go Tigers and Penn State and UF till my grave. But I've got to say now, though, it's not like I don't feel like I have to watch the Penn State game. I don't feel like I have to watch the UF game. I watch them for this reason specifically. So I'm just like, I've lost that. But for NFL, I'm never going to not sit down on a Sunday and watch a Steelers football game. That's just not happening.
Yeah.
So I've kind of had to learn to be unbiased. So that's for me is where it's like it would suck to I know you're pretty diehard for your teams. So I know you're probably a diehard Jayhawk fan. So for me, it's like that's gotta suck to be able to because you want to be unbiased, but then if you're unbiased and they end up starting to win or they win their bowl game if they make it to one, whatever it may be, then you're a bandwagoner.
Yeah.
So it's it's hard to.
It's one of those things where something I've learned in covering different teams throughout different leagues is that you can root for them, but if you're covering it. Yeah, no, and if you're covering a team that other people also root for, there's a shared understanding among Chiefs people that we're all rooting for the Chiefs to do well, and we're not official employees of the team, so we can root for them, but also you have to know when to take your fan hat off and put your analyst hat on, and I think a lot of people struggle with that. It's really easy to do, I think. I can root for whatever team, but if I watch a game and I have to talk about what happened, you have to take that fan hat off and just call it like it is. And a lot of people can't do that, and it's something that it takes a lot of practice, I think, to be able to do. But once you figure out that you have to do it, it becomes so much easier. Right,
because that's how it was for me at first. Because I did the Bethune football game. Obviously, I think I told you about that. And so for me, with Bethune being local and me not knowing at that point about South Carolina State, not knowing a ton about the MEAC, of course, I'm like, touchdown Bethune. And my play-by-play is looking at me as I'm breaking down the play. He's like, you've got to break down like that for South Carolina State. I'm going,
not so much.
Not so much. But at the same time, though, that was something through that and through my mentor, I learned that, you've got to call it evenly. And for I did Daytona State men's and women's basketball, I called for them. So of course we could be a little biased because it was our broadcast, but I still had to know about the teams we were playing more than I knew about our team. And the problem for me was I knew everybody personally on both of the teams. So they're kind of like, oh, give me a shout out and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And you can't, and it's hard. So like you said, you've got to take your fan hat off, put your analyst hat on. And for me now though, it's just my analyst hat all the time until it's Sunday and a Ryan Shazier jersey hits my body and it doesn't leave until midnight on Sunday when I'm asleep. So it's so that's my only thing right now. And I know that once to the point of covering NFL stuff, I will probably, be able to take the fan hat off for a Steeler game. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be damn hard. It's going to be hard. It was hard for me to lose my love of college because I still love the game and I love watching. I love cheering teams on. But now for me, it's I show up, I pick a team and I'm like, woohoo, go team.
Yeah.
But regardless. So after that, we've got Notre Dame and Georgia Tech. I mean, this is we don't have to talk about this. I'm taking Notre Dame. Who you got?
Yeah, Notre Dame. I mean, there's not much we have to say about that one.
No, God, no. It's Georgia Tech. I mean, come on. No disrespect to Georgia Tech, but they're 2-4 and Notre Dame's number 4. So then we have Wisconsin and Nebraska. Wisconsin 1-0, Nebraska 0-1. Again, and see, here's my thing about choosing Big Ten right now, because now that they're in play, realistically, Wisconsin number 9, a great team, playing a Nebraska team who lost last week. So it's hard for me to pick those and have an actual analyst standpoint because we don't know anything about them yet. I can tell you about, Kyle Trask and Pitts from UF or a Stetson Bennett from Georgia or, a Spencer Rattler or a Chubba Hubbard. But I can't tell you a thing about Wisconsin or Nebraska yet, or even Penn State other than Sean Clifford because he's a returner. Yeah. I mean, Penn State also loses Journey Brown, Micah Parsons. I mean, they lost Journey Brown due to COVID reasons. But, it's just there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about the Big Ten yet, which is going to be great to see and to learn, especially being that I wonder how the end of the season is going to play out when Ohio State has 5 games left and the SEC is like, we're ready. It's playoff time. So what's going to happen? How far are they going to have to schedule that out? And how many less games is the Big Ten going to play this year to get to that spot? Because, of course, with everything right now, the NBA Finals, the World Series, which is on tonight, all of that stuff, it's going to have an adder spike. Because it's COVID season. It's not even football season. It's COVID season. So I think that it's a tough one. But just because of rankings, I'm going to take Wisconsin. So who do you got?
Yeah, no, I believe they're going to be without Mertz, who's a local Kansas kid who played a fantastic game last week, threw 5 touchdowns. But Wisconsin's favored by 3. I think that's fair, especially without their quarterback. And Nebraska's a tough team that even on off years plays other teams really close. So I think that's accurate, but I'm still going to go with Wisconsin.
Okay, cool. So then after that one, we've got Indiana versus Rutgers. Again, both teams won. Are you taking Indiana?
Indiana for sure.
See, so here's my thing, though. Again, it's the same thing. You don't know a lot about them. So I'm going to trust you. I'm going to pick Indiana, too, because I don't know anything about them. So after that, we've got I've been excited for this game since the beginning of the season. Texas and Oklahoma State. Sam Ehlinger versus Chubba Hubbard and Sam Illingsworth. I'll tell you what, this is actually pretty close pick game. Texas 3-2, unranked versus number 6 Oklahoma State. I got to be honest with you. Texas has a lot to prove in this game.
Yeah.
So I like Oklahoma State. I'm going to pick them, but Sam Ehlinger still having a hell of a season. 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions versus Illingsworth, who has 483 yards and 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. So, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm going with Oklahoma State. Who are you thinking?
I'm going to go with my second huge upset of the week, and I'm going to go with Texas over Oklahoma State. I'm going to do it.
Okay, I feel that because look at the matchup predictor. We're looking at the same thing. They've got Texas 51.4% over Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering now, is Oklahoma State the imposter? Are they the imposter? Are they
they're a little sus.
Are they going to break my heart this week? I mean, I don't know. I've got to be honest with you. With Texas falling all the way out of the rankings like that, losing the Red River Showdown, I've got to say, like I said, I'm going with Oklahoma State, but I could see where you're coming from. I think Texas has a really good chance of winning this game too, but I got to go with Oklahoma State.
Sure.
So then after that, we've got Boise State and Air Force. Again,
Boise.
two teams. Boise? You going with Boise?
Oh yeah, big
Tell me
Boise
about
State
them.
guy.
What do you got on them? What can you tell me about them? Because I know nothing as it stands right now.
I really don't know all that much either, admittedly, but I know that they're a tough team. So a little bit of an aside. When I was little, my dad used to work at 5 a.m, so I would get up sometimes during the summer and go to work with him, and that would have been at like 4:30. I'd turn on ESPN, and that was back when Kellen Moore was on the team, and they always had old Boise State highlights. So I was like, oh, I like this team, and that was the first college football team I watched. I was like, does every team have a blue field? Is this what college football is like? Yeah. So I've always followed Boise State since then, and I mean, I will always pick them even when I really don't think they're going to win, just because of that moment.
That's fair. I cannot tell you how many times I've fallen asleep to watching Scott Van Pelt or one of those guys and waking up and seeing a blue field. Yeah. I mean, just because it's all late night stuff. So I'm gonna go with Boise State too. I don't know anything about this Air Force team either, so I'll pick them. Then we've got 2 more games left before we switch it over to NFL. So we don't have to talk about this. I know you probably don't want to either. Alabama versus Mississippi State. I hate doing these. What do you say? You've got a Heisman contending quarterback.
You just say Alabama.
You just say Alabama and you move on.
Yep.
Harris, Waddle, Jones. I mean, that Alabama team is just nasty. But they do sit at number 2. So I'll be honest with you. I haven't done before we end the segment, we're going to do the last pick. I actually want to do something with you because this is something that I don't normally do, but I want to do it this year. So our last matchup, of course, probably going to be the game of the year because we know how James Franklin and this Penn State team and how much passion they have. Ohio State versus Penn State. Justin Fields, another Heisman contender, just ready for anything. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to take Ohio State, even though Penn State's my mom's alma mater. She's going to hate me for that. I'm taking Ohio State. But this will be my one game of the week. You got to think, Penn State's playing with a chip on their shoulder after what just happened. Yeah. This is my official upset alert of the week. Penn State, I think they can defeat Ohio State with the correct game plan. And if Sean Clifford could have worked with his receivers going off of that game, and you know how tight-knit they're going to be after this week, after that devastating loss. So I'm going to put Ohio State on upset alert. I could be very, very, very wrong like I was with Notre Dame and Pitt. But I've got a feeling for this one that James Franklin with a chip on his shoulder is scarier than Justin Fields. I'm sorry. Fair. I think, and Penn State historically known for upsetting Ohio State in crazy situations. So I'm gonna take Ohio State, but watch out for Penn State. And so now I want to flip it over. We're not going to NFL yet. And I know we talked about it before that we both don't get to keep up with college a ton, especially since you're an NFL reporter. I know it's hard to switch out of big league mode. But I want to do our 2 early national championship predictions. Okay. And so I'm going to let you go first. We'll just go to the rankings and pull out of there. We may as well. I think that it's going to be easier to do that way. And if you want to go to the beginning, you can pretty much go anywhere you want between week 9 and week 1 if you want to look at it. So I've got to be honest with you. The way the rankings sit right now, if we were to go into the playoffs, it would be Clemson versus Ohio State, Alabama versus Notre Dame. That's the top 4. But I've got to be honest with you. I think Clemson clearly makes it to the national championship this year. A Joe Burrow and a Justin Jefferson don't stand in their way. Yeah. And neither does a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who you guys obviously fell in love with up in Kansas. Yeah. So I've got to say, I think that this year, unless Ohio State moves up one or whatever may happen, because who knows what's going to happen. We've got a lot of football left in this season. That's why it's too early. Yeah. But I've got to say, I think that we see a Clemson versus Ohio State national championship, personally. That's if they don't end up playing each other to get in. So I'm going to take them because I think that somehow if Ohio State, another team playing with a chip on their shoulder, So I think there is a lot of football left to be played. That's why it's too early. But I'm going to say either Clemson versus Ohio State for the national championship or a Ohio State Alabama. That's who I've got. Those are my two right now.
Okay. I hate to be anticlimactic, but I've got Clemson and Ohio State as my number one as well.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go with something that is an absolutely bold take and hinges upon the quarterback getting back healthy. I'm going to go Clemson and somehow Wisconsin finding their way into the top 4 by the end of the year. That depends on if they can win the games that Mertz misses.
Right. Okay, yeah, see, now that, I like that, and this is the place for second chance opinions. So
that's my bold take.
Hey, I really like that, actually. So let's look at the rest of Wisconsin's schedule, because a lot hinders on that. So Wisconsin has left to play. They're playing a short season, obviously. So they play Nebraska, Purdue, Michigan, Northwestern, Minnesota, Indiana, and Iowa. So nobody within the top 10 do they play. And do they play? No, that can't be. They should be playing Ohio State at least once, right? No, I guess they're not. So, yeah, they play no one within the top 10 right now. So that would mean Oklahoma State would have to get upset this week for it to happen. Cincinnati eventually having to lose. I don't know how Texas A&M even slid their way into the top 10. I'm not going to lie to you. They go down one spot. But I got to say, I like that take. So a lot has to happen, but I'm with you. I think you could potentially be right. And so now let's go ahead and jump ship. We're going to go over to the NFL. You and I'm sure you laughed at me whenever I told you, but the way I do this, I have a pigskin pick'em, and so do you. You're in a few, or at least one that I know of.
Yeah.
I'm one. And last week, of course, we had some not pretty matchups, but went fairly well. And actually, I will be able to know your picks from last week. If you did a pigskin pick'em, right, for last week?
Yeah, I sure did.
Okay, so now I can know your matchups for last week. I can kind of pick your brain off of that. So go ahead and go to week 7, which is clearly last week. We're going to cover that first, and then we'll go into our week 8 predictions. So last week we had our Thursday night game was ugly as ever. The Giants versus the Eagles, deciding who leads their division. I picked the Eagles, personally.
I did as well.
I liked Carson Wentz. I thought Carson Wentz with a chip on his shoulder was much scarier than Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I took the Eagles. Why were you with the Eagles? Kind of the same reason, or was it?
Yeah, I just don't trust the Giants. And I know that Wentz has been bad this year, but I still trust him way more than I trust a Daniel Jones who actually broke off an 80-yard run in the middle of that game and then stumbled and fell. Sniped. Yes. And I think that kind of encapsulates the Giants franchise.
Yeah. The franchise and their season. And
yes.
We can't even, I'll be honest with you, I really hate that Saquon Barkley went out so early. It sucks. And not only does it suck for that reason, it's bigger than football, but it totally takes that W that the Steelers got and wipes it because we know Saquon Barkley wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
So, but obviously, terrible game that night. 22 Eagles come on top, 22-21. And then we had the Lions versus Falcons, another 1-point game. Lions come out on top, 23-22. I picked the Lions. It was the battle of the Matts, is what I called it.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan versus Matthew Stafford. Who did you have?
I had the better Matt and Matt Stafford and the Lions.
Yep. Okay. So I had them too. I like Matt Stafford over Matt Ryan. Then the Bills versus the Jets. Clearly the Jets just cutting Le'Veon Bell, getting sent over to your Chiefs. I clearly picked the Bills because let's just pray for Trevor Lawrence. I just hope he stays Clemson for one more year.
The poor
that's
kid.
Something I want to talk to you about that. So we were talking about this the other night when I was texting you, and about that I thought that the pick goes through Denver somehow because Drew Lock clearly not the quarterback the Broncos wanted him to be.
Yeah.
And I personally think the pick will run through Denver because, let's be honest, I don't see Denver winning another game this season. You see what your Chiefs did to them this week. They obliterated them in the first snowy football game of the season, mind you, which I was so excited for. I texted you, Charles, I don't know what's more exciting, a 6-0 Steelers team or snowy football. I didn't know what to choose. I'm like, I'm just watching in awe because I'm like, yes, this is the football I waited for. But I know, and that's got to be granted, Mahomes has been with them. This is his second season, right? Second or third season. Third. Yeah. So, that's got to be different coming from Texas Tech. Granted, it probably snowed a little bit down there, but not Kansas snow. I know very few people that know a Kansas cold. Yeah. And it's like a northeastern cold. It's worse because I hunt fish in Idaho, in Pocatello, Idaho. Uh-huh. So I know what that cold is. And I'll tell you what, you are not catching me in some cleats and pads on a football field in 25 degrees of snow.
No way.
That is not happening. So I think, though, personally, to switch back, that pick, I really, really see it going through Denver. Only because, like I said, Drew Lock, not the quarterback they wanted him to be. I think that Trevor Lawrence, if he stays for his senior season, and granted, that's a risky injury, because he's going to have a target on his back. So the Jets, after probably trying to tank for him, let's be honest, I don't see the Jets winning a game this season. Mm-hmm. So I personally think that the pick will go through Denver next year for the number one pick, because they will more than likely, because look at all of the offensive weapons and wide receivers that Denver has drafted the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. A.J. Hamler, Cam Sutton, Noah Fant. You look at that entire receiving core and tight end, and they have Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, who's been injured. Who knows how long Melvin Gordon lasts there with the DUI charge he had. We'll see what happens. But they still have a very solid setup in Denver. And I personally got to say, that's where I think the pick goes through. I think Trevor Lawrence will stay for his senior season, and I think the Jets kind of just give up. I think they're going to be like, whatever, they'll run with Sam Darnold, because realistically, I don't think they're looking to get rid of Sam Darnold. Of course, who's going to pick a Sam Darnold over a Trevor Lawrence?
Well, they've got bigger problems than Sam Darnold as well to figure it out. Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of like the situation in Miami for Tua. And so that's why I kind of expected him. I expected Tua to come in a little bit later in the season, which of course we know Fitzmagic, all respects in the world to him. Had to have been heartbroken he was to get benched. But they saw a lot in Tua coming off the bench. So I don't think it was a bad move by the Dolphins. I expected it. But you don't have an O-line for Tua. Ryan Fitzpatrick has pocket presence. That's something, because you got to think how many teams Fitzpatrick has played on. Backup, starting, he's been everywhere. So he knows how to handle a crappy O-line. So that's why you saw him doing so well, because then you see Tua come in and he played okay. Let me pull up the recap here before we talk about that. Where was there? Or no, I'm sorry, they were on a bye week this week. So let's go back. So I'm gonna jump back to 6, and they played the Jets. They won 24-0. So I don't know if I can even open it. Yeah. So Fitzpatrick, 18 of 27, 191 yards. Which, by the way, Joe Flacco was playing for the Jets apparently. I didn't know when that happened. I think I saw it in the offseason, but just didn't pay attention. But he did that, and then so Tua comes in. He was barely even in. Really, he was 2 of 2 for 9 yards, and that was it. So I don't know what specifically they saw, but they had to have seen something. But again, though, that O-line, that is, and I've spoken to this a lot, is that now that they have a 5-star quarterback, somebody, and I say 5-star talking college, but now that they have a good quarterback, somebody they can base their team around, somebody they can build their team around, it's going to be a pistol offense. So I personally think that O-line is going to be the issue in New York and in Miami. And that's why I'm seeing the pick more run through Denver, because even if Denver doesn't get the pick, I think they do all the woodwork in the world to trade up for it. Because I personally could see a Trevor Lawrence shaking up things in the AFC West. Yeah. And I know that's kind of crazy to say, because it's like, who the hell pulls Denver out of a hat and goes, okay, yeah, that's where Trevor Lawrence is going to go. So it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's a bold take for me. How do you feel about it? We didn't get to talk about it much. What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I'm still a believer in Drew Lock. He's played like 10 games so far, and he's a kid that has a great arm. He's kind of a cocky kid, which is kind of weird considering he hasn't really done anything in the NFL yet. But he had a very bad game against the Chiefs. Like, there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He has not been good at all since he started. So, I mean, he's also been banged up. He was injured to start last year. He was injured to start this year. So
Right.
I'm not ready to throw in the towel on him yet. And I think that they have enough talent on both sides to where they won't be in a position to get that number one pick. But like you said, any team that can trade up and get Trevor Lawrence, I think will at least try to do it. So it's not extremely far-fetched, but from my perspective, I'm not quite ready to give up on Locke just yet.
Right. No, I feel that. And my thing, though, is we know how Elway is with quarterbacks.
Yes.
If
Tall,
he
white
is-
quarterbacks with strong arms, specifically.
Exactly. So that's where I'm like, okay. So they picked a Drew Lock, kind of like, ooh, we think we see something here. But now I think that they see a Trevor Lawrence and they see Drew Lock on a steady decline. It's like, I think Elway is going to be quick to pull the trigger and up Lock. That's just me, though. So we'll go ahead and kick back. Let me find where we were. Where did we leave off? We were at Jets. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We were at, I went back
Browns,
to
Bengals.
Browns, Bengals was our next game. I picked the Browns because with Baker Mayfield being injured last week against Pittsburgh and them losing, obviously a bitter loss for them. I didn't even expect Pittsburgh to come out and do what they did to Cleveland. And that's not even fans. That's taking the fan hat off.
Yeah.
I personally, and what was funny was I accidentally put Cleveland to win last week. In my podcast, I don't know if you listened to it, I picked the Steelers. I was like, but Cleveland could come very close to winning. And I don't know if just I had a mental fart and I picked the Browns on my screen, but I came back after we won. I'm like, oh, nice. I need to check my pigskin pick'em. And I check it. It's red. I'm like, oh.
Like what?
Like what just happened? But yeah, so I personally went with the Browns this week because with a healthy Baker Mayfield and clearly Odell Beckham tearing his ACL, ending his season, which is awful. I know Jarvis Juice Landry was feeling terrible for him. So was everyone else. It sucks to see somebody go out. And I swear, like, it has just been, if you want to talk about 2020 football, it's catching everybody with an ACL injury. Saquon, Devin Bush, now Odell Beckham Jr., Nick Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every major key player, or at least most of them, some of them, have gotten a torn ACL. I'm like, that's just 2020 football. I don't know what else. That's just happening. So I personally took the Browns. Who did you have?
Yeah, no, I had the Browns as well. I knew that Joe Burrow was going to put up a fight, but I didn't think it would be a 37-34 fight and Baker would throw 5 touchdowns, but I also had the Browns winning that game. After
going 0 for 5 with 2 interceptions in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, that was almost like the Falcons blowing the lead. I mean, that's just, but I will say that, Joe Burrow's number 3 in passing yards right now in the league.
No, he's had a very, 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 very good year, especially considering his team sucks.
I mean, yeah, like you're 1-4-1, and I'm going. I pulled up the rankings just for craps and giggles the other day, and I'm like, oh my God, Burrow's number 3. I'm like, that is just ridiculous, and I haven't even checked his accuracy rating yet. Like, I haven't even dug that far. I'm gonna do a stat push before next week. And kind of get everybody kind of updated.
Yeah.
But I got to say, it was impressive to see him at number 3. We all know he's a great quarterback, and I even said that he would thrive in Cincinnati if they could get their act together. But God knows Cincinnati has a terrible front office. I mean, they just got lucky to have the number 1 pick, and everybody thinks they're God because they drafted Joe Burrow over Tua. Over anybody. So of course I expected the Browns to win, but like you said, you knew Burrow would put up a fight. And then after that, of course, another ugly game of the week we have, and which is double ugly, not only because of that, but because of John Bostic laying out Andy Dalton, which was awful. The Washington football team defeats the Cowboys 25-3, and that's just, I think I've seen so many tweets telling just Jerry Jones, just go. It's not your time. Just go.
Yeah.
Goodbye. I personally picked the Cowboys. I thought that the Cowboys had enough talent on offense to just tear apart that Washington defense. But Chase Young making a statement this year, not in this game, but just in general, I think he's been on and off injured throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
But, I mean, did you see Zeke Elliott get laid out by the middle linebacker when they were chasing down Andy Dalton? Did you get to see that?
I feel dirty even talking about this game. Like, I wish we could just skip. It was one of the worst games I've ever watched in my life.
It 100%.
Ever. And I'm 21. Ever.
I can agree with you. I mean, it was just, who would have thought that Washington just out of nowhere, just whack.
And they're back in the division race at 1-5, which is freaking ridiculous.
The NFC East should have to play an all-conference playoff this year just to see which one gets into the divisional. Any team, I do not understand. And I've got to say, though, the NFC West this year, scary.
Yeah. We've got a couple of those games down the road.
Yeah, we've got a few of those coming up. But yeah, so NFC East, obviously scary. And then after this, we've got Aaron Rodgers with a chip on his shoulder versus the DeAndre Hopkins-less Texans, who sit at 1-5. After the bitter loss last week to Tampa Bay, I picked Aaron Rodgers. It's not even about Houston. It's just about you do not piss off Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the Buccaneers clearly had a game plan for him and Adam Jones, Aaron Jones. And I'll tell you what, it was an absolute crap show in Tampa Bay. So I personally picked the Packers because, again, don't piss off Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure you had the Packers too.
Yeah, no, I had Green Bay. Like, for all the reasons you said, I expected a full bounce back.
Okay. So then after that, we had a close one. This was one that I said to keep an eye on. I loved this matchup. The Panthers versus the Saints. This was a game that I was like, watch out for Carolina. And this is something I've said even around draft time and a little bit after when Teddy Bridgewater signed with the Panthers. And we didn't know who the head coach was yet. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, you sign a Teddy Bridgewater without a coach. I mean, at that time it was before Ron Rivera was gone, but they signed him. They made a push to sign him, got him from New Orleans. And then of all coaches, Matt Rule comes in and takes over in Carolina. And you know what Matt Rule is known for? It's Baylor. You know what it is. The pistol offense. And Matt Rule's a hell of a coach. And so I really liked that signing, and I'm going, oh, so he's going to take Teddy Bridgewater, who's just trained with Drew Brees for a year and played phenomenal as a backup with Taysom Hill. I'm like, he's going to do something with this team with mediocre stars on offense. He's almost like the ragtag team. He's going to do something with it, and they're going to look really good. And now they come out this week, lose by 3 to the Saints. Saints come out on top, 27-24. And by the way, if I didn't say the score before, the Packers-Texans game, 35-20, the Packers on top. But regardless, I sometimes forget to do the scores. But so Saints come out on top. Who did you have this week? I mean, who did you pick? I personally picked the Saints just for principle because Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, and another thing we're going to touch on after I hear from you of who you picked is Michael Thomas potentially being on the block to go out of New Orleans. So I want to talk to you about that. So who did you have? Did you have the Saints as well, or were you kind of like on upset alert?
Yeah, no, I had the Saints. I mean, Carolina's a decent team. They could even maybe challenge for a wild card spot if they keep playing a solid brand of football. I don't think they will, but they could. But the Saints, despite the corruption that's kind of going on behind the scenes, the arguments with Michael Thomas and stuff like that, they're still a really good team. Drew Brees, not quite as washed as he showed at the first few games of the year. He's slowly starting to play some better football, so they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Okay. So now here's what I want to ask you. I'm going to create a list again coming up, but if Michael Thomas goes on the block, where do you see him landing? Where could you, I mean, from a reporter standpoint, from somebody who had to report that Le'Veon Bell was coming to Kansas City, where do you stand? And I know it's kind of on the spot and we didn't have a lot of time to think about it, and which is fine. It doesn't matter. And I mean, I've kind of got one place in mind, but I don't quite know yet. I have a couple places actually. So who do you have any idea yet? I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean,
you're killing me here, Chance. I can't think of a team that, first of all, I can't really think of New Orleans putting him on the block, but I mean, he's a top 3 receiver. He can do everything. I mean, I'm trying to think of Tampa Bay making an aggressive move. I don't think that they would trade in conference, so I think it would be an AFC team like maybe Cincinnati trying to do an AJ Green for Michael Thomas swap or something like that. I really have, I have no clue, dude.
See, now, here, let me give you some food for thought. So, I like the Cincinnati idea. I think that that's a great idea. Because AJ Green and John Ross are both saying we want out.
Yeah.
So, I like that idea. Here's my thing. So, Miami clearly going to have a few pretty decent draft picks this year.
Yeah.
So, here's my thing. If Miami can draft for an offensive line this year,
oh man,
I think they easily make a push for Thomas and give Tua a deep threat.
That'd be huge.
You put a Tua and a Michael Thomas together in Miami.
Yeah.
Even with a mediocre running back core, and this is where I kind of see Chuba Hubbard falling if he declares this year. I think Chuba Hubbard is a Miami kind of running back. So I think they match Hubbard, Tua, and Thomas. You see the next NFL Big Three.
Yeah.
Because that is one of those things where it's just a no-brainer. Or, in my eyes, I see a Cincinnati, like you were saying, a John Ross and an A.J. Green and a first-round pick for Michael Thomas. Clearly what he's worth.
Yeah.
And I actually have another surprising one for you. I don't know if you've heard about it. Julio Jones potentially being on the block in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta looking to rebuild. So we'll get to that in a minute. I want to finish talking about Michael Thomas. We'll talk about that when we get to the Atlanta matchup for this week. I actually don't know. I want to go over the bye weeks for this week and let everybody know who's on bye. So here's my thing. So another place, like you said, Cincinnati. So right now for me, it's Miami, Cincinnati. And then my last one, which could be surprising, would probably be the Panthers, Carolina Panthers.
Wow.
No offensive talent whatsoever right now, but a Matt Rule offense giving the Saints a run for their money. Carolina will more than likely have a pretty hefty set of draft picks. So I'm thinking we see a blockbuster trade for Michael Thomas to go to Carolina. That's my number 3. That's where I'm like, I think we could see him in Charlotte at one point or another. Because it only, like, you look at Matt Rule's offense and you look at where Michael Thomas would fit. I know everybody cracks jokes on him, but Michael Thomas can run a damn slant route. I mean, like, it's not hard, but it's what he's known for. So it's like, for me, you give Teddy Bridgewater somebody he has chemistry with already.
Yeah.
You give him a weapon like that. Endless possibilities. Possibilities. And then after that, I've got one more. I thought that one was the last one, but then I started thinking about it. San Diego.
Yeah.
You could potentially send a Keenan Allen and a first-round pick for him. And now Keenan Allen, again, top 5, top 10 receiver, obviously. Yeah. I mean, I won't even give him top 10, top 5. But you match up a Keenan Allen and a Michael Thomas, personally, I think their chemistry doesn't work out great. So this is why it's kind of lower in my list. And I will recreate this list, and I'm sure I will have 100 different thoughts by the time we're done with this podcast. But I don't see their chemistry matching up. But again, though, you give a guy like Justin Herbert, who has shocked the world. I mean, didn't shock me. I personally liked him from the beginning of the draft. And I've got to say, I think you give him 2 weapons like that, the Chargers are scary. Because if they can draft a little bit more for their offensive line, which is, again, you see what Phillip Rivers is doing in Indy, 6th in accuracy in the entire NFL. You gave him the number 1 offensive line in the league. Look what he's doing. But it was a Phillip Rivers problem, apparently. You know what I mean? The Chargers have gotten another star quarterback, and I think they're going to learn their lesson from Phillip and go, okay, we need to build him an O-line. We need to do what the Colts have done. And the Colts, a team that I absolutely love and will more than likely end up in my list for potential landing spots for Michael Thomas. Mm-hmm. So those are my couple of places to land. And honestly, I know you said you're thinking more of a Cincinnati, which is I think is realistic. I also think that obviously anything's possible, but I've got to say that either Miami or Cincinnati are those are my 2 landing spots for Michael Thomas. So I'm going to go ahead and reopen my Pigskin Pick'em here. It takes a second. Unfortunately, it loads me to my fantasy football loss this week. How'd you end up? I know you run a couple teams. How did your fantasy football teams end up this week while I load this?
I'm in 6 leagues and I managed to go 4-2. So it was a a good change of pace to see more wins than losses on the scoreboard for once.
Yeah, I took a hefty L this week because I had to start a different running back this week. I had Adrian Peterson and the running back for, oh Lord, who was it? It was the backup for Green Bay. I started him.
Oh, wow.
And he ended up having like 34 points, but still wasn't a Jonathan Taylor type performance, which is actually my starting running back. I took him in the second round, which was everybody was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Dalvin Cook somehow fell to the second round. They're like, what are you doing? He's still there. I'm like, I want Jonathan Taylor. But
yep.
What was funny is I actually recorded, and not a lot of people know this, I recorded an entire fantasy football episode drafting this team.
That's awesome.
I had an entire episode recorded, right?
Yeah.
The entire time. If anybody plays ESPN fantasy football, you know, da-na-na, da-na-na, you are now on the clock. Every pick. And guess what I did? I didn't turn down the audio. So every time I was talking about why I picked somebody, it was da-na-na, da-na-na, you are now on the clock. So that was an unreleased episode that I had that didn't go out because I could literally not do anything with the background audio. So little behind the scenes there for everybody. But regardless, I got my pigskin pick'em loaded. We were at Panthers Saints. Then we come to the undefeated team in the league, my Pittsburgh Steelers. I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it. We defeat the Titans 27-24 on a Gostowski choke again. As I jump up and down in my living room and pray to God that he misses, because anything under 50 apparently he can't hit to save his life. But you put him at like 55, he'll drill it. Yeah. So I personally picked the Steelers, and what most impressed me about this Steelers team, taking the fan hat off, they held Derrick Henry to 75 yards. Yeah. He had that in the first half last week. That is a testament to what Pittsburgh has done with their defense. And on offense, Juju, I said he needed to have a big game. He needed to take some of the pressure off these younger guys. Deontay Johnson, obviously coming back off of his injury. James Washington. You've got those guys. You've got to take the pressure off of them. Juju hasn't done much. I know fantasy owners are pissed because they picked him in like the third round and they're like, oh, this is a phenomenal pick, blah, blah, blah. And he's done nothing. And then you've got a Clay putting up 48, 28, 18, 0.8, who I saw on TikTok earlier. Somebody was pissed because they started him this week. They started him and CeeDee Lamb, and they got combined 1 point. They were livid. So I personally took the Steelers with a hefty chance of the Titans winning because clearly they were one of the few undefeated teams left. Who did you pick?
Yeah, no, I picked the Steelers too. And before the season, I thought that, they won 8 games without Ben for pretty much the entire season. So I thought they were a shoo-in to win 10. Now they look like they could win 11, 12. Maybe even 13, depending on the rest of their schedule. This is a really legit team. Granted, Cleveland and Tennessee are much better matchups than they've had at the beginning of the year, so I still want to see them play some tough teams. I believe they play Baltimore this week, which will be fun. So I think they're maybe the second best team in the AFC. We're going to see, but with that defense and Ben not really making too many mistakes, I think they're going to be just fine.
Right. So that's exactly the way I see it, is like coming into the season, I figured, and Ben threw 3 picks against Tennessee. Granted, they were all tip-ups. I don't know if you watched the game, but I swear to God, all 3 interceptions except one was at halftime. He threw an absolute bomb just to the end zone from I think it was the 25. He threw one and just lobbed it. And it got picked in the back of the end zone wide open because the receiver was nowhere near the ball. And he only had 1 receiver in the end zone compared to 3 defensive backs. I'm like, well, what do you do? So that's just one, just give him that one. Then the other 2 were pop-ups off of the defensive line for Tennessee, and one off of their middle linebacker, just bloop, right up in the air, and Tennessee dove under it. So it's like you can't do anything about that. So for those to me weren't offensive miscues; they were just dumb luck. And you notice who prevailed. So for me, a healthy Ben is a scary Ben, and especially against a Ryan Tannehill. And against the Titans defense that hasn't done a lot this season. And I totally 100% agree with you that the Steelers have a lot to prove more than anything, especially playing Baltimore this week, like you were saying, because you look at the Giants, the Eagles, the Browns, the Titans. What? So We played Saquon. We're the number 2 rushing defense, or they are the number 2 rushing defense. See, that's when I got to put the fan hat off. Saying we, say them. Number 2 rushing defense in the league, leading the league in sacks. I mean, just all around phenomenal defense. But I want to see what they do against a Lamar Jackson, a Marquise Brown now. And actually, I wanted to actually, now this is another one I want to ask you. This is another one of those topic breakers. We're going to get to that when we get to our predictions. But Des Bryant just signed to the practice squad.
Yeah.
And I won't talk about it some more. I'll give you some time to think about it. Turned down a $22.3 million deal to play. Would have played next Sunday. Turned it down because he wanted to wait for the draft. He's making $12K on the practice squad. Yeah. See the look on your face because we're on a Skype call right now I'm going to try and get this out on videotape. But for people that can't see us, I'm looking at Jordan right now and I know Jordan's facial expression is like, what in the hell? Why? Yeah, but $22.3 million on 3 years, turned it down. Why? I have no idea, but we'll get to that in a minute. So after Steelers, I had the Steelers clearly. They win 27-24. Same score as the Saints-Panthers. After that, we have the Buccaneers smacking the Raiders upside the head. Yeah. I got to be honest with you. Buccaneers number 1 rushing defense in the league. And again, I don't care. They just signed Antonio Brown. Bucks, schmucks, purely dumb luck. Bucks and 8-8. I don't care. They're 8-8. Like I'm not. I have made that. No, seriously. I have made that prediction. I've been bold about that since the beginning of the season. I'm telling you, I think they are, and that has got to be probably, I know you're probably thinking that is the stupidest take you've ever heard anybody out of NFL analyst, anything, or even just a regular person. I'm telling you, I do not trust this Bucs team for anything right now. Their defense, granted, has proven themselves, but I've got to say, kind of the same thing as the Steelers. They've played the Saints and now the Raiders. Who else? They got a half-injured Christian McCaffrey. They're the ones that injured him. I mean, really, who else have they played? I mean, can you tell me? I mean, and also, can you name me a play? And this is kind of this question. Right now, if at the beginning of the season, could you name me a player on the Bucs defense besides Devin White Jr.?
I know Winfield.
Okay, Winfield. Okay, so him and Winfield. Can you name me another one?
I think Levante David's one of their linebackers, but like I can really only name like 3.
Right, you can only name like 3. So for me, it was almost like they're almost to me like a New Orleans team who has. You can name me what Cameron Jordan and Eli Apple when he was there last season. I mean, that's it. So for me, and like I mean, you and I are diehard football fans, and we're looking at it going, well, who do they have? Now we see an Antoine Winfield, obviously leading rookies in interceptions, will more than likely be candidate for Rookie of the Year. And Devin White, who has always been an animal, you know, go Tigers, LSU, alma mater from him. Mm-hmm. And I've just got to say that I didn't expect them to beat the Raiders as bad as they did. I personally picked the Raiders this week. I thought the Raiders would be one of the teams to upset them. And I was wrong. I mean, the Buccaneers now 5-2, Raiders 3-3. So as of this week, the Buccaneers have only won one more game than the Raiders. And the Raiders technically have more of a tougher schedule than a lot of teams. I personally don't see it like that. But still, though, are just not that team that I want to see them be. So I think personally, if the Buccaneers have all this talent, how come they're not undefeated? Because I mean, look at Pittsburgh playing with a bunch of ragtag wide receivers. Yeah. Granted, we have a great defense, but shouldn't they be undefeated? That's my thing. So I know. Who did you pick against the Raiders?
I picked Tampa. I mean, I respect their defense, and I think Brady is. He's not quite what he used to be, but he has so many weapons that they're not going to lose a ton of games. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of them. I mean, they just have a good winning formula, and it's a boring winning formula. It's kind of a blast from the past, but they're a tough team.
Right. No, and I think I'm not trying to hate on them or say that they suck or whatever, but they've been overrated since the beginning of the season. I mean, everybody's all over TB12's, you know what, and I'm just like, I just can't stand that. I'm like, look at Brady and what he's done. You can't say he's a system quarterback anymore because look at Cam Newton and Belichick. They are awful. Yeah. So I will give Brady, he's not a system quarterback, but, also Bruce Arians, hell of a coach.
Oh, yeah.
Came from Pittsburgh.
Hell of a system.
Oh, yeah. Hell of a system. I mean, look at what he did with Ben Roethlisberger. He groomed Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah. So you're going to tell me he's not going to go to Tampa and and do something, I mean, I don't know. I personally picked the Raiders because I like Josh Jacobs, and with Henry Ruggs being back this week, I
Mhm.
personally like them, and I like Derek Carr, but they let me down. So
Yeah.
Buccaneers come on top, 45-20, and so now this is where I want to get into the whole Le'Veon Bell deal. This is where I want to talk to you about it. I want to hear what you kind of knew, understood, and so the Chiefs come out on top of the Broncos, 43-16. Bell coming in, I think he had one of his rushes was 17 yards alone, and that was
Yeah.
all he had with the Jets. That was it. So what are your thoughts, and what did you know kind of about him coming to town? When did you know that you could report it? And what do you think about them signing? Because I know originally when I talked to you, you were kind of like, I don't know. I don't think the Chiefs are going to want to sign him. But
Yeah.
then of course you find you know before everybody, of course, because you
Yeah.
work. So well, you don't work for the Chiefs, but you work for the place that covers them, Sports Illustrated, obviously. So what do you think about them signing him, and what do you think that's going to have how do you think that's going to make the Chiefs look towards the playoffs?
Sure. I'm not gonna touch on the reports behind it. I mean, everybody gets kind of
Right.
inklings and stuff like that. We get tipped out and crap. So I kind of like tweeted a mysterious like Le'Veon Bell soon type thing where I didn't like officially say it was gonna happen, but like that night I was getting told that like they were like going to make it happen, and then like he kind of bamboozled them at the last minute. There was Emmanuel Sanders came into town. And like before he could sign the contract, like this was back when Peyton Manning was going to Denver. Then he found out Manning was going there and literally hopped on a flight and went to Denver. So I kind of felt like that. I was like, well, he's going to go sign somewhere else now. And then Miami and Buffalo emerged. He chose winning over money. And I mean, that was a huge statement by him. So more power to Le'Veon. I think he's really fueled and amped up, to rebuild his image, I think, and become more complete image of a player. And I mean, the Chiefs offense wasn't even good against the Broncos, and they won by 27 points.
Right.
How do you beat them? You have to hope the Chiefs beat themselves. It is literally ridiculous because their special teams scored a touchdown, the defense had a pick six.
102-yard return, yeah.
Yeah, they made Drew Lock look like he had never played a game in the NFL. I mean, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I totally feel that. And that kind of was my thing, though, was because everybody thought I was crazy for saying Le'Veon would come to town. And I'm going, you got to think, though, you look at a guy like Le'Veon who almost was a hypocrite and ended up taking less money with the Jets for the time that he was there, and was like, he held out in Pittsburgh. And more so, I feel as though that wasn't selfishness. And a lot of people think that. I think that was underappreciation in Pittsburgh. Because you look at what we had, how much we were paying Ben and Brown, how much they were paying Ben and Brown. And it's just, you think about it and you're like, okay, you've got the number one running back in the league and you're not paying him more than your top. I mean, granted, we had a number one wide receiver as well, but how are you not paying them at least close to equal? I mean,
Yeah.
Brown was making 20 mil plus more than what Bell was making. So was Ben. And granted, Ben, obviously first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, we know this, but when you've got an Antonio Brown from Central Michigan in the 6th round and he's making damn near triple what you're making, and you're a top 5 running back out of Michigan State, I mean, you just gotta. I would be frustrated too. And then to go in and get franchise tagged, that would irritate the hell out of me too, especially knowing what kind of talent you have. So he took his talents to the Jets, where obviously he thought something was going to happen. Adam Gase comes to town, completely ruins that team.
Oh, God.
Oh my God, I don't even want to talk about Adam Gase. Jamal Adams traded. Now they're trying to trade Quinnen Williams apparently.
Yes, Chiefs bang the table. They don't have a need. Just get him. I mean, throw a 2nd round pick out there and get him. I mean, what are you?
You know Adam Gase is dumb enough.
Adam Gase, it's like a Bill O'Brien situation. Like if they made Adam Gase the GM, they would literally like not have a team anymore.
Lose everything. They would lose everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they already don't have a team at this point. I mean, it's terrible for them right now. But regardless, though, so yeah, I personally like Bell coming to the Chiefs. Everybody said I was crazy because Bell won't go there because he's selfish. He doesn't care about winning. He cares about money. And I'm like, no, Bell's on his KD mood, and he wants his ring. He deserves
his ring. Yep, so, he wants to get along for the ride and contribute some.
Exactly. And so they already, I'm sure they told him from the jump, you're not going to be our starting back. Clyde is
Sure.
our guy. You're going to be a third down back. You're going to be in if Clyde gets hurt. That's when you'll be a starter. Other than that, you're a third down back. Come, do the hard work. You're a bullnose running back. You built like a bulldozer. Do the job. Do your work. And we're signing you for a minimum. Because everyone's like, oh, they paid Pat Mahomes too much. $500 million. I mean, I'm like, okay, you think if they're paying Pat Mahomes $500 million, you really think they don't have enough to sign a Le'Veon Bell for 4 or 5? Like, what are they paying the rest of their squad? I think Travis Kelce, what's his contract? Do you know?
He's making, I think, 11 this year. I mean, it's less than he should be making.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So, I've got to say, if they're going to pay Mahomes that much, they clearly have the cap space to do it. So, Bell was my favorite for him to land there in Cincinnati. But if you see what I'm thinking, though, is that imagine this. Joe Burrow, Le'Veon Bell, better O-line, Michael Thomas.
Joe Mixon, too.
Joe Mixon as well. You think about what kind, and also Giovanni Bernard, who's kind of
and Tyler Boyd.
And Tyler Boyd. And if they kept him and didn't trade him for Michael Thomas, Jay Green, John Ross. You're telling me John Ross wouldn't stay if they brought Michael Thomas to town?
Dude, he would be such a happy camper.
Oh my God. So either way though, regardless. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on the whole Le'Veon Bell situation with you. And so either way though, so the Chiefs, like you said, demolished the Broncos, make them look stupid this week, 43-16. I picked the Chiefs, you picked the Chiefs. I don't even have to explain that one.
Yeah.
So after that though, we have the 49ers and the Patriots. I personally picked the 49ers just because I didn't quite feel that trust that I normally feel with Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I don't quite know how much I feel about it. I'm going to take the 49ers. And actually, shout out to Kevin Edwards. Good somebody I've been talking to, friend of mine. He's a photographer for the 49ers. I'm texting him the whole game. Oh my God, are you getting good shots? And at the end of the game, I get like 6 texts back from him. Dude, it was awesome, blah, 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 blah. He has stuff on his Instagram and all of that stuff. So it was funny. But regardless though, I took the 49ers. Who did you have? Did you have them too, or?
I had New England, and Cam was good before he got COVID, and then he got COVID, and he's been like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. So I don't know what's going on with them. It's 2020 football, and I mean, I have some barbecue wings from Zaxby's waiting for me after we record this pod. # not sponsored. And the Patriots were barbecue chicken the entire freaking game. Yeah. I mean, 33-6 against a team that is missing like 99% of its roster due to injury and has Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Just getting absolutely just demolished. It was barbecue chicken in a nutshell.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was just I was very surprised. Cam gets benched too.
Yeah.
I'm like, for Jarrett Stidham. I'm like, so maybe Cam wasn't not respected. Maybe it was Carolina finally said, you're going downhill, buddy. Sorry. But no, regardless. So we're going to get going here because we're not even done with the recap. We haven't done our picks yet. So I'm going to go through this one fast. Justin Herbert and the Chargers defeat the Jaguars, coming back 39-29. Herbert has an amazing game. I picked the Chargers. Who'd you pick?
I did too, man. That Herbert gets something special.
Yeah. I told everybody, and as crappy as this sounds and probably will cost me a lot of internships, I'm not picking the Jaguars for the rest of the games this season. I don't see a matchup. I do not see a single matchup they have this season that they can win right now. Yeah. Even though Gardner Minshew, number 6 in the league for most passing yards.
Yeah.
I'm like,
he's not bad.
No, he's phenomenal. He's a great quarterback. The Jaguars have a great future, but this season, I don't see him winning another game.
Yeah.
So that's another place where I think Trevor Lawrence may go through. But regardless, though, I think they're trusting Gardner. That's one of my kind of like, out of 32 teams, they're like number 30 of where Trevor's going to go. But regardless, then the Seahawks losing a very, very close one. I want to talk about this, though. DK Metcalf making up for that fumble he had against Dallas last year, making the hustle play of the year, ran 23.5 miles per hour to catch Budda Baker, who has been phenomenal this season. From all the way, I think DK started at the 1-yard line when you watch the replay, and caught him finally at like the opposing 15. It was ridiculous how fast he ran. But regardless, though, the Cardinals come out on top of this one, 37-34. Seahawks now 5-1. And then after that, I picked the Seahawks. Who did you have? Did you have the Seahawks?
I had the Seahawks too, man. I expected it to be close, and it was close, but Arizona squeaked it by.
Yep. Then after that, Bears, Rams, who'd you have?
I had the Rams. I don't trust the Bears as a team. Like, I like Nick Foles. I like their defense. They don't have a running game at all. Foles isn't an elite quarterback. I mean, you're relying on an average guy to win you games, and when stuff breaks down, he can't really do it. I don't trust Matt Nagy, the head coach. I think that they were easily the most fraudulent, like 5-1, 5-0, whatever they were, team in the league, and they showed why.
Right. So yeah, I'm with you there. Then after that one though, I personally picked the Bears in that one.
Okay.
I was like for Foles magic. I personally picked for the Bears to win 28-16. What was your score prediction?
I had 24-10. Or no, that was the final score. I had 29.
I was about to say,
yeah,
good job, buddy.
No, I had 29-23. I thought it was going to be a fairly close game, but I had the Rams pulling it.
Nice. Yeah, so I had the Bears, so I was wrong there. Again, the NFC West, a scary, scary division this year.
Yeah.
So now, again, jumping ship to week 8.
Let's make some picks.
Yeah, let's make some picks. I'm ready for this one. I'm ready to hear what you have to say. So I'm going to let you go first. I want you to tell me Falcons or Panthers.
I've got the Panthers, man. I think that Atlanta is maybe better than their 1-6 record shows. I mean, I don't think they're quite that bad of a team. They have a good quarterback in Matt Ryan, but the Panthers are trying to play for a playoff spot still. I mean, they're not out of the wild card race. Teddy Bridgewater is a good game manager. Robbie Anderson has emerged as like a weak number one receiver, but still a guy you can rely on your team. So DJ Moore, a good young receiver rookie for them. So I have the Panthers in that one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I see the Panthers taking this one as well. But I've got to say, the Falcons, this is what I wanted to get to you. Julio on the trade block. Another one of those on the spot questions, and I'll let you think about it while I'm talking about it. Julio, another one of those emergers who is apparently going to be put on the trade block because Atlanta wants to start rebuilding. Why? I have no idea. Why you wouldn't rebuild with Julio makes no sense to me. But I guess they see that they can get a lot of first-round picks out of him. I mean, if you did a straight-up thing for picks, you could get 2 first-round picks and somebody great for Julio.
Yeah.
So I think personally, I can't quite tell you where he's going to land yet because I'd kind of be saying the same thing as Michael Thomas. But one of my bolder predictions, I think that the Colts could potentially make a push for Julio.
That would be cool.
Now, here's why. You've got a Michael Pittman Jr. who is now hurt. He's done.
Yeah.
You don't have many receivers in Indianapolis right now, other than T.Y. Hilton. I mean, T.Y. Hilton, there's not enough for me to like pick it out and pull it apart. You know what I mean? There's T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman if he wasn't hurt. And I mean, that's, unless I'm forgetting somebody and I'm blundering this right now, that's pretty much it for me. That's all I see right this second. So I personally think if you take T.Y. Hilton and slap 2 first-round picks on it, you land a Julio. That's how I see it. And then you give a guy like Jacob Eason, who, Jacob Eason was who Stetson Bennett replaced this year. Now that I think about it, I blundered that, or it wasn't Jake Fromm, it was Jacob Eason. Because let's be honest, Phillip Rivers has got 2 or 3 more years left in him. That's it. If the Colts don't go to the playoffs this year, which they're lined up to, if they don't win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, which I don't foresee happening, Phillip will retire. He'll cut his losses. He'll probably go back to the Chargers for a game or two, play, and then retire. And then Jacob Eason takes over. But Jacob Eason is being molded by Phillip right now. So, which I think is a great mentor for him. So if you give Jacob Eason, Julio Jones, and a healthy Michael Pittman, you've got not only the best offensive line in the league, you've got a great young wide receiver core, a young defense all the way around, who, again, number 2 in the league for everything except for running.
Yeah.
Where they are, I believe they're number 3 or 4. But, I mean, just an all-around great team for Julio to land in. But my only thing about that is I'm pretty sure, don't they have Julio on like a lifetime deal?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think it's like 5 years, but he's 31, so he'd be 36 at the end of it. Something like that, where it's pretty much lifetime.
Where they quote lifetime, but it's not, it's not the rest of his career, but pretty much is. So whoever gets this is going to have to pick up a hefty contract. if not put more on it for less years. So, well, restructure it, I should say. So the Colts right now have the cap space to do that. They've got the youngest team, one of the youngest teams with some of the lowest cap space, or some of the highest cap space that we've seen in a long time. I'm actually going to do, this is kind of a sneak peek for everybody. I'm going to do an MLB team and NFL comparison eventually down the road, because it's just something I've been thinking about recently. I have a lot of my friends who are Rays fans. Obviously the World Series on, and it's 8:50. I didn't even realize what time it is. We've been talking for about an hour and a half now, but World Series clearly on right now, and the Rays, the lowest paid team in baseball. The Colts, really close to the lowest paid team in football, other than like maybe the Dolphins or the Bengals. So with a lot of talent, I think that Julio, that's a big place for him to maybe land. So that's just my too early prediction for now. But anyhow, let's get going on these picks. I'm ready to finish this up because we've already been talking for an hour and a half. You got stuff to do. I got stuff to do. So let's get through these. I want to hear what you have to say. So we both took the Panthers. Then we have the Patriots versus the Bills. I think we clearly know who we're picking here. And that's going to be the Bills. So, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer there. This Patriots team falling apart rapidly. And, you have the Bills as well. What's that?
I'm actually going to change my mind. I'm going to go with New England having a bounce back game and upsetting the Bills.
Okay.
I'm going to go with, I think that, I mean, I know Cam and the Pats offense is not this bad. I know that the Bills, they played bad against the Chiefs. They struggled against the Jets. I think they're due to come back down to earth a little bit. And I think that the Patriots are due to bounce back. I can't see a Bill Belichick team falling to 2-5. And it sucks that the Bills are the team they're playing, but I'm going to give them the bounce back. Huge upset.
You know, you're kind of speaking facts. I'm not going to lie to you, because that actually makes a lot of sense. I could see that happening. I'm going to agree with you. I'm not going to pick them. I'm going to still pick the Bills on my pick 'em anyway. But I'm with you. I think we put the Bills on upset alert this week. I think that's definitely, I think they've been a little too high on their horse. So, I'm going to go with the Bills. You're going to pick the Patriots. Then we have Titans, Bengals. And, I mean, Titans, Derrick Henry's about to have a monster game. That Bengals defense is not what the Steelers defense is. I'm going to say Derrick Henry goes for over 150 yards rushing and at least 2 touchdowns against this Bengals team. Tennessee's coming for blood, especially in the AFC North. So I'm going to pick the Titans. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans too. I mean, I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. I think that they're a tough team. I mean, they're a very tough 5-1 this year. They're a little bit better than their record shows just because of that quarterback. But Tennessee is a really, really good team, and you can't beat really, really good teams when you're not really, really good.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm with you. So yeah, I'm taking Tennessee. Then we have the Raiders 3-3 versus the Browns 5-2. It's hard. I'm kind of like on the fence about it. Like, I want to pick the Raiders because I want the Browns to lose, but at the same time, this is a really good Browns team this year. But Odell being out, I just can't foresee the Browns defense stopping a Josh Jacobs and the secondary being able to handle Ruggs and all of those guys. So I think the Browns have a really good chance of winning, but I'm going to take the Raiders. Who do you?
Okay, yeah, I was going to take the Raiders. I think I'm going to go with the Browns. I'm excited to see. I saw like a split of Baker's numbers when targeting Odell versus like anyone else in the offense, and it seems like they just didn't click. So I don't think that they're going to miss him a ton. I'm still interested to see how it goes. So I'm going to give Cleveland the slight edge, but like you said, the Raiders are a better team than most people give them credit for. They could easily win that one.
Okay, then this is a tough one for me. Colts Lions. I got to pick the Colts. I mean, clearly, I'm going with them. I mean, Phillip Rivers, that whole team, we just spoke about them a little bit ago with maybe Julio ending up there. I got to pick the Colts, but I'll tell you what, Lions have a really good chance of winning. DeAndre Swift, Matthew Stafford, that whole team looking great right now. Even though they're at 3-3 again, another one of those teams you don't give them enough credit for their team has a little bit more than their record. So I'm going to go with the Colts. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts too. Man.
I know it's hard. It's like we've got a really good setup for matchups this week. I'm excited to watch football this Sunday.
Detroit is suddenly on the verge of being 4-3 and right back in the playoff picture. I mean,
Right.
You know what? Screw it, dude. I'm going to talk myself out of another pick live on air, and I'm going to go ahead and go with the Lions get into 4-3.
You go with the Lions. You just love picking against me this week.
I don't know. I think we'll have some more similar ones as we finish up, but I'm going to go with the Lions.
Okay, cool. And then these next couple of ones, I think they're going to be kind of no-brainers, so we'll just go through them fast. Vikings, Packers, I'm taking the Packers. You got Packers, right?
I'm actually going to go with the No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh my God, I was about to say.
I'm going with the Packers. There's not much else that needs to be said about that.
Yeah, no. And then we have Chiefs versus the Jets. We know Bell did this on purpose. he wanted to go. He's going to have a monster game against New York.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, Clyde, you're the rookie. We're going to sit you for a little bit and let Bell do his thing. And Bell's going to tear up that Jets defense along with Pat Mahomes and all those guys. And I know you are probably required to say that the Chiefs are going to win also in the fact that they're playing the Jets. But,
yeah.
But I'm taking the Chiefs. You're clearly going to take the Chiefs. We don't even have to talk about that one anymore. Then we have Rams, Dolphins, Tua's first game back as a starter versus Aaron Donald. You talk about something scary
Welcome
coming
to the
around
league.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm taking the Rams. That's a no-brainer. Who are you going with the Rams?
Yeah, no, I'm going with the Rams too.
Okay. Then the standout, standalone, I mean, has to be a statement game for this Steelers team. Steelers versus Ravens. Ravens just signing Dez Bryant, and again, I was giving you some food for thought, time to think about why Dez Bryant would turn down $22.3 million on 3 years. He said he's waiting for the draft. That's a long ways away.
Yeah.
Like, why? Do you have any sort of thought as to why? Because I got nothing.
I have no clue. No clue whatsoever.
He could have been on the field as early as next week through COVID protocols.
Yeah.
And he just said, nope, I'm staying on the practice squad. I'm like, what are you thinking? But anyhow, statement game for Pittsburgh. I think this is going to be a close one, but I got to go with my hometown boys. I'm taking the Steelers. Who are you thinking?
I'm going with the Steelers. I don't know what the line is on this one. It's probably a little bit of an upset, but I think the Steelers make a statement here and kind of assert themselves as the big brother in the AFC North. The Ravens have been talked about all year as the team that is the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC, so I think this is kind of a make or break game for Pittsburgh, and I think they're going to pull it off.
And for Baltimore as well. Another make or break game for them, 100%. So I'm looking at it's not the line, in which this is something I'm going to put out there, other than Jordan himself, who I'm going to ask after this. If there's anyone out there who wants to teach me odds, please call me. That is something I've always wanted to learn. I've never, in my 19 years of being alive, granted, I've watched football my whole life. I've never been able to learn about the line or odds or any of that stuff. So anybody who wants to teach me that stuff, please hit me up. If you know it well enough. Like I said, I'm going to ask Jordan after this. But, I know nothing about that. So right now I pulled it up. They're picking the Ravens 60-40 over Pittsburgh.
Okay.
This week, Lamar and them. So, like you said, I think it's a big statement game for both teams.
Yeah.
I'm going with Pittsburgh. Oh, my picks got messed up. Dang it. That's all right. I'll fix them after. It's all good. Then, after that game, we got Chargers, Broncos, both teams 2-4. I'm taking Herbert over Locke. 100%. I don't even have to think about it.
Yep, no much more than needs to be said.
No, absolutely not. Then after that, Saints, Bears. Bears having a better record than the Saints. Granted, the Saints came off of a bye. Bears 5-2, Saints 4-2. I got to be honest with you. I really want to pick the Bears. I
do too.
For some reason, I really want to pick them. I'm going to pick the Saints under better judgment, but I think the Bears have a really good chance of winning this game, especially coming off of that loss last week. I got to go with the Saints.
Yeah, no, I do too. I think that the Bears are a tough team. They're going to play tough, but the Saints have a lot to play for, and they also have Drew Brees, and they have a defense that I think will slowly get better throughout the year. So I'm going to go with them as well.
Okay. So then after that, NFC West matchup, 49ers Seahawks. I think Russell Wilson is going to have a monster game this week. I'm taking the Seahawks. I can't really say much more about that. Like you said, a ragtag team like the 49ers right now, who don't have a lot of healthy guys, and Jimmy G's their starter. So I'm going with the Seahawks. Who you got?
Yeah, me too.
Seahawks? Yeah. Okay. So then we got 2 more games left. After this, we got the Cowboys and the Eagles. That is going to be a ugly.
The Eagles will pull away. They're going to pull away and assert dominance with a 3-4-1 record after this game.
I just, again, in conference playoff, I think that's what they deserve.
Yeah, they deserve to be abolished from the NFL.
Yes, I wouldn't go that far, but
can they secede from the union, please? Get them out of here.
Oh my God, no! But then after that one, like you said, taking the Eagles clearly. I think. Well, now, hold on. Let me come back. If Andy Dalton clears concussion protocol this week, he plays.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna switch my stance.
Oh?
I think I'm gonna pull a U. I'm gonna take the Cowboys. Only because look at what happened to Zeke last week. Look at the Eagles defense.
True.
I don't trust Carson Wentz ever in my entire life. And I think that if Andy Dalton comes back and he's not, hurt from, thinking John Bostic the whole game and playing scared, I think Dallas pulls away with this one. Honestly, I'm gonna switch up. I'm gonna take the Cowboys. Eagles, close chance of winning though. Then the last one, we've got Monday night, Buccaneers versus the Giants. I think we all know who's gonna win this. I think Brady is licking his lips right now, just thinking of how he can add to that MVP candidate race.
Yeah, no, that one's gonna get pretty ugly, I think.
So I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna take Buccaneers 49-14 against the Giants. What do you think what's your score prediction?
I'm going to go 31-21, which is probably closer than it's going to be, but I'm going to give the Giants a little bit of credit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. That's 49-14. That's what I got them. You got them at you said 31-21?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to submit my picks so that I don't lose them now that I've got all of them done. And
there you go.
That's how we are going to wrap things up. Jordan, thanks so much for being on, man. I love how before this I said, we'll only be about 45 minutes and we're at an hour 7. But no, man, I want to thank you for being on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, talk football with you. I'm glad to finally have you on the show. Go ahead and toss up all your social media where everybody can find you. Kind of give everybody the rundown about where you're at and that sort of deal. Give them everything.
Sure. Check me out on Arrowhead Report, Sports Illustrated Arrowhead Report. You can read some of my basketball stuff at Hoops Habit. I used to write there. I used to do some work for Fansided NFL. So there's really a bunch of stuff out there for me. Follow me on Twitter at @TheBestFootForward. Add me on Facebook. Do all that good stuff. Hit me up on pretty much any socials and all. My DMs are open. I'm always looking to connect and hop on podcasts and stuff. So thank you, man, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I've been looking forward to talking to you for a long time. I think I hit you up over 2 months ago now, and we're just now getting to do this because I was waiting to have guys like you on because even though I'm serious about this is what you do for a living.
Sure.
Like this. So I like to wait to have guys like you on to share my knowledge because this is stuff you guys do. I don't want to have like a 1 episode podcast of like, oh, hey, jump on my podcast. Like I don't like to make it seem like I'm using people for publicity. And so that's why I waited so long to get myself established, kind of get my name out. And I was really excited to have you on. And again, I can't thank you enough. And so let me go ahead and remind you guys, don't forget, go like, rate, subscribe, find Jordan on all the stuff he just gave you. I've got all of my social media. You guys know it at Second Chance Pod, Instagram and Twitter. Go check it out. The Le'Veon Bell list is still there. We clearly know where he landed, but if you want to go check it out and kind of see the other places that I had in mind, go check it out. And again, thank you guys. Thank y'all so much for watching. Again, like, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will see you next time.